But I guess Tommy wants me to do a video, right, Tommy? Mention that at work. I don't know. Yeah, obviously, I don't need much encouragement to do this. But I don't really have a topic in mind. Can you even hear me right now? I've got the Final Fantasy VIII soundtrack playing. I've got the window open. Yeah, I don't know. It's Friday, motherfucker. Obviously in a good mood. I don't know, it's really seems a toss-up between having the window open or having the air conditioner on. And either way, there's a possibility of some, sound interference. It's kind of why I haven't bothered to turn the radio off. Because I don't know. This isn't really planned. I don't have much of a topic in mind. Maybe if I turn this on, I might be able to close the window and still have it be bearable in here. Oh, I don't know. What's going on? The news, there's that hurricane that's going to hit Florida. Hurricane Irma. It's like Category 5 now. I guess it just slammed the Caribbean. It looks horrific as fuck. But aside from that, I don't think there's much to be said. Obviously, anybody in Florida, take care, be safe, get the fuck out of that thing's way, evacuate. That would be the thing to do. You know what? As long as we're on the subject of the hurricane, let's go ahead and talk climate change a little bit. That's a subject I've opined on in the past. Climate change. Oh man. See, and the reality is, there's a solid scientific consensus. Climate change is happening, and it is being caused by human CO2 emissions. But those of us who are aware of that, who've accepted the scientific consensus, and by the way, when we speak of a consensus in a scientific context, it doesn't really mean quite the same thing as a consensus in the normal context. I mean, it does. It means generally the same thing, but it's not just like, okay, everyone just kind of got together and, like we took a vote and said, okay, who thinks there's climate change? This is thousands and thousands of in-depth scientific studies coming to the conclusion that climate change is happening, and it is extremely likely that it's being caused by human CO2 emissions. That's getting a little distracting. Maybe not off, but maybe down a little. So there is a solid scientific consensus. It varies depending on what your criteria is. Among the like only climate scientists, it's somewhere around like 95 to 97%. And if you expand that to include, I believe it was like meteorologists, specialists in like the atmosphere, I don't really remember everything you get to expand it to include. It's still over 90%. And generally, the more you define that criteria as people who have a specific expertise in climate science, the more overwhelming that consensus becomes. The global average temperature, here's the other thing, global warming and climate change are one and the same. In this context, obviously, global warming refers to, the average temperature of the Earth increasing, which is what's happening. And climate change is a more general term that can describe the temperature going up or down, and just what it says, climate changing. It's not like a conspiracy where we were calling it global warming and then like it started getting cooler, which on a global level never happened. It didn't cool down. There was some confusion because some people are dumb enough that they hear global warming and they go, well, it's cold where I live, so it can't be happening. Completely missing that the term includes the word global. So, no, there's no conspiracy like that we were calling it global warming and then it got cool and they're like, oh, well, let's switch it to climate change. No, they're the same thing. It's global warming. There's always been global warming. There are so many things to dispel about this. There's the claim that back in the 70s and 80s, everyone was saying that there was going to be an ice age. That wasn't happening. It may have been an idea popularized by, God, it pains me to use the term the media in any kind of negative context, because I'm not one of those idiots who fucking, Trumpsters who talks about the media as if it's like a supervillain. But there was definitely, I believe anyway, if I'm understanding this correctly, because I was a child in the 80s, so I don't remember personally, but there was, from what I understand, there was something of a media hype that climate change was going to cause a new ice age. But among the professional scientific community, it's always been global warming. They weren't claiming there was going to be an ice age. So there's that. There's a lot. There's a ton of really stupid claims have been made by people denying it. I mean, what's another one? The most common one you hear now is the stupidest one of all. Of all the arguments I've heard, it's the dumbest. People are saying the climate always changes. It's natural. That's true. Yes. That doesn't mean we aren't changing it too. What? Do you think the two are mutually exclusive? It's like me coming up to you and fucking punching you in the face which is an appropriate response to someone making an argument that dumb. It's like me coming up and punching you in the face, and when you get mad at me, I say, what, your face hurts? Sometimes your body hurts. Sometimes your head hurts. It's called a headache, and it's natural. The climate changes naturally. That doesn't mean our actions are not causing it to change in ways that it otherwise wouldn't. And the temperature, the global average temperature is rising. It's accelerating. It's rising at a faster rate now than, unless I'm mistaken on this, I mean, you may have to go look this up, but it's changing at a faster rate now than it ever has naturally in the history of the planet. Every year sets a new record for the warmest year. The last decade, at least, I believe, has been year after year of hottest year, hottest year, hottest year. It's ridiculous to assume that that kind of trend over that short a period of time does not mean that some shit is up. There's no... I mean, anyone who actually knows what the fuck they're talking about, there's no controversy around this. There's no maybe. It's as certain as we can be. You can never be 100% certain about anything, especially in, science. You can never really be 100% certain of anything, but science especially acknowledges that. But we're as certain as we can be that climate change is happening and that it's being caused by human activity. So I covered that subject a little before I intended to, but whatever. Now we got that out of the way. But there's a but. But those of us who understand that need to be careful about what we're attributing to climate change. Because, to my knowledge, climate change has not been responsible for a detectable increase in hurricane activity or intensity, despite the fact that we are seeing a sudden barrage of pretty intense hurricanes this year. All in all, as far as I know, climate change has not had that impact yet. It's anticipated to. It's probably going to be more noticeable toward the second half of this century. So, I mean, and it's tempting. Those of you who understand that climate change is happening is overwhelmingly likely that it's being caused by human activity. It's tempting when there's a major hurricane to point at it and say something like, well, this is climate change for you. This is what happens, and this is a result of climate change. But that in particular, that assertion in particular is not accurate. And there's a problem making statements like that, because that will be leaped upon by people seeking to promote climate change denial. What they'll say is, look at this, the stupid liberals, because, I mean, let's be honest, we are among, it's far more common among liberals, such as myself, to acknowledge climate change. And so what opponents are going to say is, look at this, the stupid liberals are telling us that that climate change is causing an increase in hurricane activity, but look over here, you can see by the record that there hasn't been a noticeable increase in hurricane activity. And so what winds up happening is they are able to present the impression that your argument, that the argument of climate change has been debunked because you've made a poor argument for it. The exact same thing happened. Excuse me, a little bit of a congestion going on today. I don't know. Same thing happened with the polar bears. They were saying that their numbers were dwindling. I don't know. I personally hadn't kept up with it. I don't know whether they were or not. There are arguments that they haven't. If they haven't, and if we've made the argument that they have, then that's another example. They can point at that and say, look, cause and effect. They make a causal connection between the two and say they were saying because of climate change, polar bears are decreasing in number. Therefore, because polar bears are not decreasing in number, the theory of anthropogenic climate change must be wrong. Anthropogenic climate change is another term for human caused. Anthropo is a prefix meaning human, genic referring to, created by, manufactured by. So anthropogenic means human caused or human created. That's what, if you hear the term anthropogenic climate change. So we have to resist the urge to point at events like a major hurricane and say, told you so, because it isn't. That specifically is not a product of climate change. Yet. Like I said, if it keeps going, and the fact of the matter is, at this point, we can't stop it. Even if we reduced our emissions to zero, we've already done so much that, that carbon is in the atmosphere. It's not, other than, finding some way to get rid of it, it's going to stay there, and it's going to continue to have an impact on the climate. So don't try not to make that argument. And there's a dumber one. There is a dumber argument that I've seen along the same lines, and I knew it. I knew when I saw the article that someone was going to say it. I went to the comment section in the article and went, let's see how long it takes me to find someone who said this. Looked in the comment section, sure enough, the second one from the top. And I face palmed so hard that I thought my hand was going to go through my head. There was, just this morning, I believe, a very powerful earthquake in Mexico. I believe it was on the border of Mexico and Guatemala. Really strong. It was a big one. I saw the article about that, and that the first thought I had was, watch this, some fucking idiot is going to attempt to make the implication that this earthquake was caused by climate change. Because that's our that's the knee-jerk reaction now. And I mean, obviously at this point, if you've been listening to this video, I don't say this as a climate change denier. I acknowledge the science. I think it's important to acknowledge the science. Again, the anthropogenic climate change is a reality. But we do that objective a great disservice by saying something as fucking retarded as the earthquake was caused by climate change. The fuck? How? How? Do you understand like how earthquakes happen? I can't even. Fuck. I just used the phrase I can't even. I don't do that. I'm smarter than that. I'm flustered by the sheer stupidity. Earthquakes are caused when tectonic plates move over each other. Climate change has absolutely fuck all to do with that. It was a sad moment. I was hoping it would take me a little bit longer to find someone saying that. Frankly, I was hoping. It was just like, please, let me be wrong. Please tell me someone is not going to claim that an earthquake was caused by climate change. Nope! There's a little fucker right there. And the fact that it was the second from the top means that it was the second most popular comment on that article. I give up. I can't. I don't know what. It's too dumb for words. There was a guy below that who I don't remember the details exactly, alright? So I'm sorry if this isn't 100% accurate, but there's a guy who commented on that, and of course, I mean, there were people pointing out to this idiot that climate change doesn't cause earthquakes. There's a guy below that who, for reasons I can't fathom, was obsessed with cement. Now, I don't know what like relationship that had to the earthquake. I guess you could make the argument that, you know, cement being used as a foundation for buildings or but I swear this guy must own a cement company or like a company that provides an alternative to cement, because he was fucking going on and on. He wasn't really clear either. I mean, that was the other thing. I don't understand what his argument was, because it was not very coherent. Something about the quality of cement, and then someone below that commented on the original comment and said something along the lines of, you know, like, again, hey, I know climate change is real, but it doesn't cause earthquakes. And the guy responded to that by fucking talking about cement again and accusing this person, being like, oh, so I guess you are okay with this cement to continue being used all over the world, and how wrong you are for that. And so I fucking, like, I jumped in for a minute and I said, dude, one, there are so many things that we're doing as a species that we could stand to do better for the sake of the planet and the future. I don't know, what is this fixation? What is this hard on you have for cement? I don't understand why you'd be fixated on that so passionately. And second, this person said climate change doesn't cause earthquakes. That was the only thing they said. They weren't taking a position on anything that you're rambling about. And then the guy responded to that. It's sort of like the cement issue needs to be addressed. I'm like, all right, fine. I don't know what your stake in this is, but fucking go on with your cement. That was fun. That was one of the weirdest things I've ever fucking seen. It almost topped the initial assertion that climate change had caused the earthquake. I don't know, I'm trying to make this video last the whole ride home. Because, I mean, this has been an ideal solution, by the way, to the boredom of the drive home. Now I can sit here and make videos like this, and I mean, I don't expect anyone to watch them. By all means, if you are, hi, I appreciate it. I kind of make these, I don't really know. I don't know my exact motivations behind it. As you see, people do, or at least they did, I don't know if they still do, obviously if you watch this you don't, think I never talk. I'm like, I talk, give me a fucking subject. I don't, you know, I'll talk. I've got a lot to say. Most of it is stuff that, again, like, I don't think, and I definitely get the impression nobody fucking cares. So I don't talk much. You want to hear what's on my mind? I can talk for days. My mind is always going. If everything that was on my mind was coming out of my mouth, I'd never shut the fuck up. Much as is the case right now. So, I don't know. It's like I've always thinking about something. I've always got something to talk about. If you give me the impression that you're actually, you actually want to hear it, fine. You know, let's talk. Other than that, I'm just going to go about my business so we can continue having dialogues like this internally. Shit, I don't know. It brought to mind, when I thought about this earlier, it brought to mind the Fermi paradox. Because the way we're going with climate change, the fact that we're so hesitant to do something about it, the fact that half of this fucking country doesn't even think it's happening. Our president doesn't think it's happening. he thinks it's a Chinese conspiracy because he's fucking. I don't know what more to say about that guy. All right, I can't believe we elected him. Shame on you, America. Fuck. The direction we're going with all of it is that we're going to make it very hard for our species to survive. It's going to necessitate becoming a spacefaring species. Spacefaring is a species that is capable of traveling through space and potentially colonizing other planets. And so that got me thinking about now it starts raining. Sorry, that's not all that shocking. That's just like something I had to think about because I had to fucking turn the wiper blades on. Got me thinking about what are the, you know, chances we could potentially colonize other planets, and other planets even just within our solar system, let alone become an interstellar civilization, colonize planets around other stars. The closest star to us is the Alpha Centauri system. Alpha Centauri A, Alpha Centauri B, and Proxima Centauri. Those are 4.25 light years away. If he's traveling at the speed of light, it'll take 4 years and 3 months to get there. Now, obviously, if you were traveling there, well, not obviously, most people don't really know this, I guess. If you were traveling there at the speed of light, you wouldn't experience 4 years and 3 months. If you're traveling at the speed of light due to time dilation, the trip for you would be instantaneous. Of course, traveling at the speed of light, you have that little problem with you'll be fucking disintegrated. You can't go that fast without being energy. You have to have no mass to travel at the speed of light. We might be able to travel close to it, and that would severely reduce the amount of time you experience. It wouldn't reduce the amount of time it takes. Relative to people on Earth, if someone was standing here on Earth, they would not see because they wouldn't, you know, but they would see it taking 4 years and 3 months for you to get there. You would experience it happening instantaneously, and that alone, if you need to communicate with a civilization back here on Earth for any reason, that fucks things up. Even once you get there, like the transmission, if you're trying to communicate with someone back here on Earth, you're fucked. Because it would take 4 years and 3 months from when you send your message for someone on Earth to receive it, and then another 4 years and 3 months for you to receive the response. So you're waiting 8.5 years in between transmissions. That's fucking ridiculous. So obviously, if you're gonna start a civilization around another star, your odds are you're not communicating with your original civilization back on your home planet. Again, unless we develop some sort of crazy technology, my guess would have to be, oh, the fuck can't I remember the term for it now? Shit, why is that slipping my mind? I know that term. Quantum entanglement, that's it. If we were to find a way to employ quantum entanglement, Is that the right term? Shit, quantum entanglement. Yes. What, my brain just kind of like stopped there for a minute. I'm home now, so that might have something to do with it. I'm a little bit distracted. If we were to find a way to employ quantum entanglement, there may be a way to communicate instantaneously across distances that long, because what quantum entanglement is when two quantum particles become entangled. A change in one affects the state of the other instantaneously. It's right away, and that is, we don't know why that is, because it should be impossible. Because nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So no information should be able to be communicated to something, say, for example, given our example, 4.25 light years away, no information should be able to be communicated from one position to the other any sooner than 4 years and 3 months. But with quantum entanglement, that information is exchanged instantaneously. So if we maybe found a way to employ that, possibly. Other than that, though, it makes the idea of an interstellar civilization seem impractical. And how that relates to the Fermi paradox. The Fermi paradox is basically asking the question, where are all the aliens? It was, and again, this is based on a huge amount of speculation. Because we don't know. But the idea is that given the size of the universe and the likelihood of life generating somewhere in the universe, enough life forms, theoretically, I guess, according to this paradox, should have formed and developed to a point sufficient to allow interstellar colonization. And once one species reaches that point, they should be able to colonize much of the galaxy in a relatively short amount of time. So the question is, being that most likely should have happened, the galaxy should be largely colonized by some species. And then that begs the question, where is everybody? But this is based on a huge amount of speculation. We don't know what the odds are of life arising necessarily. I mean, we don't really, we have estimates. We don't know what the likelihood is that life would advance to that point on, you know, any given instance. We don't know what the fuck life would look like outside of Earth. We have no clue. This planet, what we know here, is the only thing we have for a standard to go by. That's not enough. This is one example. We can't realistically draw any information. This is one. We don't know what other kind of life might evolve. We don't know what we're looking for exactly. we can guess, we can speculate, and that's all this is speculation. Fermi paradox, Fermi paradox. Anything else? No, I think that about covers it. Just as well. I'm home now. That was fun for the drive. Yeah.